hey, I'll do what I got to do, right? There we go. I hold my phone up to the monitor and it beep, and there's a little app on my phone. Hopefully you can't hear that over the microphone. Let's talk blood glucose. Of course, as you may know, I do a lot of big sweeping arm movements and talk with my hands sometimes. I noticed when I was editing my last video, you could see my blood glucose monitor, so I figured I'd address it. I did touch on it in the last video, but I figured I'd do a whole video on glucose levels and why I got the glucose monitor and what I'm looking for. So I'm curious if any of you guys have ever tested out your glucose levels, if you've ever had a concern with your glucose levels, if you know what I mean by glucose levels, if you've ever checked them out or you've ever had a doctor tell you you need to keep an eye on them. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. I'm curious if there's anybody out there that started carnivore specifically because their blood sugar was too high. Maybe they're pre-diabetic. So let me get super, super basic with it. When you're consuming something that has, sugars or carbohydrates or the candies, the cookies, the cereals, your blood glucose levels will go up. And then your body releases insulin to bring the glucose levels down and shed that glucose into your cells. If you don't have glucose in your body's smart enough to be able to create it, but that's a side note. We do need glucose in our bodies for things like red blood cells, our brain function, kidneys. For guys, you need them in your testicles. So different countries use different charts to monitor glucose levels in the body, but I can tell that most of you are American. The majority of my viewers tend to be in the USA, so I'm going to use your method of measurement. So I'm getting these numbers off of Dr. Sean Baker. So you're going to want your blood glucose levels to be in the range of about 70 to 140, depending on whether you're fasted or if you're fed. If you're fasted, your number should be under 100. And if you have just eaten, you're going to want your number to be under 140. So that's kind of the range that you're wanting to be in to be healthy. If you're over these numbers, then you're going to be what's considered pre-diabetic or prone to diabetes. And then when you get into the really high numbers, that's when you are actually diabetic. You're considered technically diabetic. I was super, super curious because I've never explored this field before. I've never checked my glucose levels. I had no idea where I sat in that range. So hence the monitor. So you can have the pinprick glucose monitors as well. So that's a little contraption where you prick your finger, get a little bit of blood in there, and they sell the strips where you can test right away. I think those are a little bit more immediate. So if you eat something, test your blood. Of course, the food's going to go into your bloodstream and you're going to be able to test your glucose almost instantaneously, whereas the continuous monitor is actually measuring fluid. So it takes a little bit of time for that glucose to get into the fluid. So it's a little bit of a delay, but I thought it was super convenient because basically all I do, I hold my phone up to the monitor and it beep, and there's a little app on my phone. And it tells me what my glucose is at the time. So I thought that was super convenient. It only lasts about 2 weeks and then you take it off. It just seemed like the convenient way for me rather than pricking my finger all the time. If you're eating a ton of sugary foods, starchy foods, carbohydrates, that kind of thing, your blood sugar will go up and then your body's going to bring it back down, and then you eat again, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. That's a little bit jarring on the body. So one of the benefits of the carnivore diet is that you're not eating those carbohydrates, you're not having those big, insulin spikes and crashes. So I was curious if, because I'm not eating any carbohydrates, whether my blood sugar was going to be consistent. So that is what I'm finding on the monitor. I am a little bit on the low side of the healthy range. So I'm still within the healthy range of glucose, but I'm a little bit on the lower side, which I expected. I don't have those peaks and valleys. It's fairly consistently, in the lower of the healthy range, which is pretty cool. So it was good for me to check that. I'm glad I don't have any risk of prediabetes, so that's good to know. I would be really curious if I did eat something super sugary or something really carb heavy, whether that would spike up the glucose, but I'm not going to do that. So yeah, that was my experience with the continuous glucose monitor. And I am finding that my energy levels are kicking up now that I've been on carnivore for, I think I'm coming up on month 3 now. So I said I wanted to try this out for 3 months. I'm coming up on the 3-month mark. I'm noticing, the energy levels, the sleep is good, the focus is there. I'm not feeling, peaks and valleys of crashes, of tiredness, of energy dips, or any of that kind of stuff. So it is a very cool diet to be on. I had mentioned in one of my shorts before that I was considering doing a little bit of a intermittent fast. So I have implemented that. I'm finding in the mornings I'm not super hungry, so I can push my breakfast, a little bit later. Sometimes I'll have my first meal around noon. So I'd say probably between 16 and 18 hours occasionally is what I'm doing for my fast. Haven't had any difficulties with that. Haven't had any challenges. I'm not, dying of hunger. I'm not, lethargic or anything like that. So it's pretty easy to just kind of play around and see what works for you. I'm going to keep playing around with stuff and just see, if I feel any different, if I feel any better or worse, or if anything changes. But so far, just plug it along. When it comes to my workouts, I mentioned before that my strength and stamina had dipped a little bit. It's not horrible. I'm definitely getting used to it. So I might do a video down the road, maybe if I decide to incorporate just a little bit of carbohydrates before my workouts. I would love to see how that changes things, if I feel any different, if my lifts get heavier. So stay tuned for that, because that's probably something I'm thinking of implementing. I am noticing that since being on carnivore, I've gained a couple of pounds, which I know isn't huge because I'm not on this for weight. I'm on this for longevity and health benefits. But of course, being a former fitness competitor, I don't want to be gaining a ton of weight. So as you know, I didn't start this diet because I had any huge, inflammation or joint pain. So I know a lot of people do this because they do have, inflammation or arthritis or IBS or, bigger issues. I was more just doing this to see how it went and how I felt. So now that I've kind of gotten the hang of it, summer's coming, I am wanting to lean out a bit. So I'm wanting to get a nutrition plan that does incorporate elements of the carnivore diet, maybe leans slightly more towards keto. I might be incorporating just a little bit of carbohydrates into my diet just so that I can lean out for summer. I want to tighten up. I'm still building muscle. So I want something that's going to be, the best of both worlds. Maybe not 100% carnivore, but I don't want to incorporate too many carbs in my diet. So we're going to see how that goes. Stay tuned. So don't you worry, I will still be here. I will still update you on my diet and my nutrition and my progress, and I'm not going anywhere. So please leave messages in the comments. Let me know how your journey is coming along. If you are leaning towards keto, if you're leaning towards carnivore, if you're thinking about it, if you aren't sure if it's something you want to jump into yet, let me know. I love hearing all your comments. They're so appreciated. And make sure to subscribe, please. I've got so many views on some of my videos and just not that many subscribers. So please make sure to click the subscribe button so that you can follow along with my journey. I would really appreciate it. Thanks, guys, and have a great rest of the day. I am so hungry. My stomach is grumbling. Hopefully you can hear that over the microphone. Speaking of which, I think the video of mine that got the most views was the one where I was like pointing at my boob. So maybe I need to point at my boob again so that you guys will subscribe to my channel. Hey, I'll do what I got to do, right? There we go.